More than 1,000 years ago, fierce warriors sailed out of the cold north. They raided, they traded, and they explored farther than anyone of their time. This is the story of the Vikings, the warriors of the north. Our story begins more than 1,200 years ago, in the lands of Scandinavia. This is the far north of Europe, modern Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. It was a cold, hard land. The people who lived there were known as the Norse. We often call them the Vikings. Life in the north was difficult. There was little good farmland, and the winters were long and dark. So the Vikings looked to the sea. They became some of the greatest sailors the world has ever seen. But why did the Vikings start their raids? Experts believe there were several reasons. There was not enough good land at home for a growing population. Many young men sought riches elsewhere. The monasteries and towns of Europe were full of treasure and poorly defended. They were tempting targets. And the Vikings had the perfect tool for the job, their fast and powerful ships. The Vikings built amazing ships called longships. These ships were fast, light, and strong. A longship had a single sail and many oars. It could cross open seas and also sail up shallow rivers. The front of the ship was often carved like a dragon's head. It was meant to frighten their enemies. With these ships, the Vikings could appear suddenly out of the sea. No coast was safe from them. The Viking Age is often said to begin in the year 793. In that year, Vikings raided a monastery in England. It was a rich and undefended church on an island called Lindisfarne. The attack shocked all of Europe. The Vikings took treasure and left quickly. People had never seen raiders like them before. The Viking ships could sail up rivers deep into Europe. No place near water was truly safe. They even sailed up the river to the great city of Paris and laid siege to it. Some kingdoms paid the Vikings huge amounts of silver just to make them go away. For the next 300 years, Viking raids spread fear across Europe. They struck again and again. Some Viking warriors were known as Berserkers. They were said to fight in a wild, fearless rage. People believed nothing could stop them in battle. Their very name still means wild and out of control today. The Vikings were also incredible navigators. They had no compass and no modern maps. Instead, they read the sun, the stars, the wind, and the movement of birds and waves. With these skills, they crossed vast open oceans that terrified other sailors. They were fearless at sea. The Vikings were fierce warriors. They fought with axes, swords, spears, and round wooden shields. In battle, they were brave and feared no death. They believed dying in battle was a great honor. The Vikings believed in many gods. Their chief god was Odin, and the god of thunder was Thor. They believed that warriors who died bravely would go to a great hall called Valhalla. But most Vikings were not warriors at all. Most were ordinary farmers and families. They grew crops, raised animals, and lived in long wooden houses with their families. Viking women had more rights than women in many other lands. They could own property and run farms. The Vikings were also fine craftsmen. They made beautiful jewelry, tools, and carvings. But the Vikings were not only raiders. This is something many people forget. They were also skilled traders and craftsmen. They traveled to buy and sell goods across the world. Viking traders traveled along the rivers of Russia all the way to the Middle East. They traded furs, amber, and other goods, and brought back silver and silk from faraway lands. The Vikings were also amazing explorers. They sailed farther west than any Europeans before them. They settled the cold island of Iceland. Then they sailed even farther, to Greenland. And around the year 1000, a Viking named Leif Erikson reached North America. The Vikings reached the Americas nearly 500 years before Columbus. They were the first Europeans to do so. They built a small settlement on the coast of North America. They called the new land Vinland. But the settlement did not last long. The Vikings were far from home and faced many hardships. Still, it was an amazing achievement. Tiny wooden ships had carried them across an entire ocean. The Vikings did not only raid and leave. Over time, many of them settled in the lands they visited. They settled in large parts of England, Ireland, and France. They built towns and farms. In France, a group of Vikings was given land. They became known as the Normans. Years later, these Normans would conquer England and change its history forever. In England, the Vikings did more than raid. A great Viking army arrived and conquered much of the land. For a time, a Viking king named Canute ruled over England, Denmark, and Norway all at once. The Vikings left their mark on the English language. Many common English words come from the Norse. The Vikings even reached the great city of Constantinople, far to the east. There, some Vikings served as elite guards for the Byzantine emperor himself. From the cold north to the warm Mediterranean, the Vikings left their mark everywhere. But slowly, the Viking Age came to an end. The world around them was changing. The kingdoms of Europe grew stronger and learned how to defend against the raids. The Vikings themselves became Christian. They formed their own kingdoms in Scandinavia. By around the year 1100, the great age of Viking raids was over. But the Vikings were never truly forgotten. Their blood and culture live on in many countries. Their amazing ships, their explorations, and their legends still fascinate the world today. We still tell stories of their gods, their warriors, and their voyages across unknown seas. The Vikings passed down great stories called sagas. These tales of heroes and gods were told for generations. Many of these sagas were later written down. They are some of the greatest stories of the medieval world. The days of our week even carry Viking names. Thursday comes from Thor, the god of thunder. The warriors of the north sailed into legend, and they are remembered to this very day. The Vikings were raiders, traders, and explorers who changed the world far beyond their cold northern home. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more journeys into history. Thank you for watching.